Welcome to Define Play, where I interview fascinating people to find out what play means to them. My guest today is Dr. Terence Gadsden, who's the Campus Pastor and Athletic Chaplain at North Park University. I first met Terence many years ago when we both attended seminary together, and I have loved learning from him as a friend and as a mentor. In our conversation, we talked about hip hop, how he makes his selections as a DJ and his creative process. We talked about his identities as an athlete, as a pastor, as a father. And at the end, he offered me a definition of play that challenged me in a great way. So if you feel challenged or encouraged by anything you hear too, please let us know in the comments. We hope you enjoy the conversation. Let's get into it. Before we dive into some of the other topics that you have a ton of expertise on, we have to talk about motorcycling.
Yeah, come on. Let's talk about it.
We have shared motorcycling together as something that is fun to get out, and we'll have to put the photo on the screen of that from our last ride. And I know you love to just get out and you go out in the mornings, you just take a solo ride. What is motorcycling for you? What's the appeal there?
Well, it's just the freedom. You know, my older late brother had a motorcycle. He had a Suzuki 500, and I just ride on the back of it. And as a kid, my parents hated it, but I loved it. And so I just loved motorcycles since I was in 5th grade. And I told myself one day I'm gonna get me one. And after I graduated with my doctorate, I got me a Iceberg Mad Dog. 150cc. So it's like a motorcycle, but it's like a scooter, but it's like a motorcycle.
I mean, it rips though.
Yeah. So, and I got it and I loved it, you know. So just riding and just being out in the open. I call it Black Boy Joy.
Black Boy Joy. We got to get out and do another ride this summer and get some Black Boy Joy going.
Yeah.
I love it. So a lot of things that I'm excited to talk to you about. I think you are one of the most well-versed people I know in hip hop, in the spiritual, emotional, cultural layers of hip hop. If I were asked to rank top most playful genres of music, I think hip hop would easily make top 3. I mean, it would probably contend with jazz for, you know, which one shows up better with improvisation and such. But talk to me about what hip hop means to you, and are there places where you see playfulness show up in hip hop in particular?
Yeah, you know, I hip hop is my native tongue, you know. Again, my late brother, Otis Good, was a DJ, hip hop DJ. And so when he was in high school, he would DJ all over New Jersey. And he would sneak me with him, and I would go to house parties and I would go and kind of hold the crates of records. And so, but I just loved how hip hop brought people together. He always infused not only hip hop, but also house music, jazz, funk. And later I realized that was actually hip hop. Hip hop is just all these genres, all these styles kind of compiled together. And so when I was in college, I started DJing as well. And so just playing with, you know, music and different beats and instruments. And so, but I fell in love with how hip hop is so inclusive of just, you know, the diversity of the world, and how it's just, you know, you don't have to be, anything can be hip hop, you know, in some regards. And so,
define hip hop.
Yeah, you know, but it's you know, it's turntables, it's the, you know, graffiti, it's the MCing, it's the B-boys, the B-girls, it's the dance. And so all those things make elements of hip hop. But, you know, hip hop is also a culture, a subculture, and, you know, started from the Bronx in, you know, the late, you know, 70s, and, you know, really out of a struggle, but just bringing people together, you know, taking something and taking something out of nothing and making it, you know, great. And so, so that's what I love about hip hop. Hip hop is just inclusive of culture and styles, and it speaks of a story, you know. So that's why I love hip hop.
The word story is great there. In the way storytelling can show up in hip hop, it can be very humorous. It can be with, you know, many layers deep in the wordplay and the word choices, as well as it can also be deeply personal and emotional. And there's a storytelling element of hip hop that is so powerful. And Talk about bringing samples in. I mean, your brother was a DJ.
Yeah.
So you had those records. You're sampling things from across different genres, and then house music has its roots in that as well, from here in Chicago as well. When you're approaching sampling, or when you see samples used in hip hop, how is that handled? How do you go about that? Like, taking anything is fair game to incorporate.
Well, yeah, I think there's many types of DJs, right? And so there's some DJs who are kind of like, radio DJs, there's hip hop DJs, there's house DJs. And so, but for hip hop DJs, and particularly my brother, what he would do is he would just be in a record store for hours. I hate that part. I hated it. We would go to a record store. Hey, we're gonna be here for like 5 minutes. Man, we here like hour and a half. But he would take a lot of funk. Funk records. He loved funk records, like James Brown, and a lot of James Brown funk, Curtis Mayfield, just like a lot of funk albums, particularly James Brown. And he would just like try to take the intro or the break beat, where this the drummer would have a little kind of set off, and he would just like try to take that and kind of replay that over and over again, or use that, and so in his DJ set. And I think for me, like sampling, like I was driving here today and I heard this techno song, and I was like, the intro, I'm like, oh my gosh, Siri, what is that song?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm gonna download that song, and I just want the intro is like 20 seconds.
Right.
And I wanna take that intro and I just wanna play with something. I wanna do maybe some hip hop, some house, something. So just sampling can be multiple, it can be sounds. Like some people, they record, sirens from the, from fire station or whatever, and they'll use that, So I think it depends on how creative you want to be, and what kind of way you want to go. I like to do intros, like a kind of like a long intros, and so I'll take just crazy different sounds and kind of put it into my set. So it just varies, man. So
what's like the wildest, most out there sample you've incorporated into one of your mixes?
I have incorporated a preacher like hooping, like yelling, like it's like just kind of like using it like part of the sermon, and just like kind of just yelling like ah.
Wait, pause. If for those not familiar with the Black church tradition, could you please define hooping?
Right. So in the Black church tradition, some preachers, when they preach, they kind of get excited, and they kind of actually at the end of their sermon, it's almost like they start rhyming, and it's a lot of crowd participation and kind of call and response, and so they're like rhyming, and like when I say hey man, you say like it's like just back and forth, and
very interactive,
and some, not all, get really really excited and maybe yell, and so I incorporated like a kind of a yelling into my set, just kind of like, whoa, what's that? What's happening? But that's probably the craziest I've used.
Oh, that's a ton of fun. I love that. And, can you give us a little bit of behind the scenes into your creative thought process in general as a DJ? Is it, are you thinking, how are people going to hear this? Or are you thinking like, I'm making this for me, or somewhere in the middle? What's your process and what's your goal when you're DJing?
It really depends on if I'm doing a DJ set for a non-hip hop crowd, I'm really trying to like showcase what turntablism is. So I'll be super, super intentional about using both of the turntables and showing that I'm actually like using the turntables as an instrument.
Yes.
If I'm at a hip hop crowd and they know a lot of, they're familiar with hip hop music, and if I'm in a city, like if I'm in New Jersey, I'll try to use artists that are from New Jersey, like Lauryn Hill, like Redman, or just being whoever I'm at. I'm really cognizant of where I'm at, and if this is a hip hop crowd, a non-hip hop crowd, and sometimes I just kind of like feed off the energy. Yeah. Like I'll go if I do a block party in Chicago, if I'm on the South Side, I know house music is where it's at. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get my cashmere, let me get but I'm just really looking at the crowd and kind of like, let me test the water. Are they feeling, Chance the Rapper? They want something a little bit more. So I'm just really kind of feeling where everybody's at and just kind of reacting kind of,
Right.
So it just varies, but it's the energy. So if I get more energy from the crowd, I'll get more creative.
That's cool.
So
you're improvising and adapting in the moment with what you're spinning and what you're choosing. And have you ever made a pretty unexpected pivot during a set?
Yeah, if people are not on the dance floor, if I'm at a block party and they really want to dance, and they're not really dancing, like, all right, I gotta put on a slide song. I've done the cha-cha slide 100,000 times, but I'm like, okay, what can I do to make it differently? So let me put some Beyonce with this, So there's times where I'll have 20 songs. Okay, I'm gonna do this. These are classic songs, maybe they're pop songs, maybe they're hip hop songs that people are familiar with. Because I believe people want to join in the party. People want to sing their favorite songs. They want to dance. So I'll try to have okay, what's the top 20 songs that are classic? Maybe it's a Whitney Houston or Michael Jackson or Prince or something. And then, okay, if they're not feeling that, okay, what can I do to kind of remix it that they can say, oh, okay, maybe a younger crowd doesn't know about Prince, but okay, let me tack in some, The Baby or something, someone who's current and just kind of okay, yeah. So it's just really kind of improvising, but also coming prepared too, though. Coming with coming with some tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. You've done some prep work and you're kind of ready for anything.
Yeah.
The thought of young folks not knowing who Prince is makes me sad, but also I know that's we're getting old, and I know that's our reality. So shifting a little bit, you are an athlete. You've been an athlete your whole life. If you're putting on music, what's the song that's going to get you in that zone for the long haul or for the big sprint, whatever it is?
Yeah. If it's a long run, I'm listening to some 90s hip hop.
Okay.
Anything 90s hip hop like Wu-Tang, Redman. I mean, I'm kind of classic, old school EPMD. If it's a long run, if it's a shorter run, when I say short, maybe 2 miles, 3 miles, I'm listening.
Your short run is my long run.
I'm listening to house music, down tempo music, and it can be from any artist. I just need something with a beat that's gonna keep me in rhythm.
Yes.
And so the house music, that's kind of where I'm at, and some techno, I'll use that for the 2 to 3 mile runs. But it just keeps me going. I just need something. I just need a beat to keep going and stay kind of on rhythm. So
I completely relate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need pretty driving.
Yeah. I can't run without music.
Yeah.
I can't, I've been running for over 20 years, but I cannot run without music.
The folks who can listen to podcasts while working out, I'm so amazed by. If you are listening to this right now while you are running, you are my hero. So yeah, I agree. I need that heartbeat.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about your identity as an athlete in general. Where does that fit in your sense of self?
Yeah. So I think I've been a runner. I've ran at the collegiate level in college on scholarship, and so in high school and college, and so I've always loved running. I think running for me, whether it's cross country, track and field, it's freedom, just kind of getting out in the open or just getting on the track. I did 400 and high jump and 800, and so but I was the mid-miler guy, but I just love running, the freedom of it, and to compete, with the team. And now, I'm not on a team anymore, but it was at one point it was pretty unhealthy. That's all I thought about was being an athlete, making it to the 2000 Olympics.
Okay.
Didn't make it.
Okay.
But that was kind of my whole identity. I was I'm an athlete. And then I realized towards the end of my college career that I was more than just an athlete. Athletics was something I did. It wasn't who I was.
Okay.
And I had a friend who suffered an injury, and I saw their mentality change, where they were I realized that they were at the top of their game, and then they got injured, and they realized that hey, I had a good career, and I saw them. I'm like, yo, they're not just an athlete. He really helped me to see myself more than just an athlete, that you have so much more other skills and talents. You can do this, you can do that. And after college, I'll do something else. And so I was like, okay. So that really helped me to kind of look at myself as not just an athlete, but something that I do, but it doesn't define who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's really profound, that groundedness of, this is just part of my life. It's not all of my life.
Right.
And there's much more to life beyond that, even if it was the majority of how I spent my time and thoughts for a while.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And you mentioned that sense of freedom. I think that's really, really key, and a consistent theme in a lot of forms of play is a sense of freedom. How does that intersect with competition and performance? Freedom, does freedom get squashed? Is that more just on your own time, or can that still exist in a competitive environment too?
Yeah, I think now I'm 44. I kind of compete with myself, so it's like I'm competing against, what I did last week or yesterday. For me, like if I'm not running or DJing like throughout the week, I'm like that Snickers commercial, I'm not myself. Like I am not myself. My wife, my kids know, like, Dad, you need to run. You need to go for a run. Like they know, like, have you been doing music, Dad? Why don't you go down in your studio and do some music? I need that.
Yeah, they all know.
But when I run, my wife, my kids know, okay, Dad's gone, like, and they know my route, and so I'm just gone. Like, I don't have to answer. They don't call me. My phone's on, like, don't disturb. And so I just have this freedom, and I'll tell myself, okay, we're going to do 2 miles today. We're going to do 2 miles, and we're going to just, you're going to pace yourself. And then if you feel good, and I'm telling myself, Terence, you feel good that last mile, like, let it rip.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I'll have these kind of planned out runs, where I'm going to go, and then where I'm going to kind of really rip it. And I'll kind of reminisce about when I was in college. Here's the last lap. Come on. And I just kind of, with the music going, I'll just imagine that people are cheering for me.
Yeah.
The people that are driving and looking at me, I imagine that they're cheering me on. Yeah. They ain't paying me no attention. They're like, man, this fool running here. It's all cold outside, But I'll just use that as fuel to, like, they cheering for me.
I love that.
They cheering for me.
Yeah.
They probably think this idiot out here running. It's 20 degrees.
Maybe it's jealousy.
Yeah,
maybe it's like, oh, I could never do that. I mean.
So, but I'll use them looking at me or just the cars as fuel to, like, yo, they cheering for me.
That's
okay,
awesome.
cool. And I'll just keep going, man. So that's kind of how I am now, this version of it. So just kind of, competing and playing, these mind games with myself just kind of keep me going, and not thinking about I'm tired,
Yeah.
So
it's
crazy.
I love that. Sounds like it's much more than just a physical health thing for you. It's a mental health thing as well.
It is. I'm blessed to still be able to run, at a high level, and still be healthy. But it is mentally, I think spiritually. I think it's all those things. Like, I can just be out in nature. I tell my kids and our family knows 30 minutes a day outside is good for you mentally, spiritually, just to get the vitamin D. Just be outside, changes your mentality. So, but it's something that I do, whether it's summertime, wintertime, it doesn't matter how cold it is, as long as there's not ice on the ground. I'm outside running.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
I love it.
That's inspiring.
Yeah, are you running? Are you running?
I like to lift more than more than I like to run. The last 2 times I have tried like running, I have injured myself in some way. So I think my form is bad.
Okay.
So and it both involved a treadmill. So maybe it's just a treadmill thing, and I need to get outside. To your point.
Yeah.
One, I got like I don't know if it's a groin injury or what. Like, I sprained something kind of in where my leg meets my hip.
Okay.
And then the other one, a year or 2 ago, my knees were just killing me. So I'm definitely getting old. That part is clear. But it's probably a form issue.
Yeah.
So maybe you can teach me the good form.
I got you, man. I got you. We can do pool workouts, all that. No.
Yeah. Hey, I would love to work out with you. That would be a blast.
Man.
Okay, so tell me now, your current role, you started here at North Park as athletic chaplain.
Part-time, yep.
Part-time. Now you have moved, you are full-time the campus pastor here.
And athletic chaplain.
What is it like to move? I mean, you're not quite a coach, but you're almost coaching in a different way, on a deeper, more spiritual level.
Yeah.
What is it like to bring your skill and familiarity with sport and running into leadership and guiding and mentoring other people?
Yeah, no, I love it. You know, my minor in college was coaching. And so I use a lot of that. And I was a coach on the west side at Little Village High School here in Chicago for 4 years. And so I use a lot of those philosophy of coaching, all those classes I used to take and that experience. And I just kind of, coach students along. Regardless of their faith, tradition, their background, it doesn't really matter. Just helping them to see that they are important, they're loved, that they're valued, and just kind of be a listening ear, right? You know, if they need some help or if they need someone to talk to, I'm here. But also just to encourage them that, yay, you're more than an athlete. You know, I see you not only as an athlete, but you're a student. You're, maybe a brother or sister or whatever. But so I get a chance to kind of, not only the students, but also the coaches and the staff to help them and to coach them and just be just a support system for them. Some of our students, they'll come to me, ask about, relationships, and advice. And so I think a lot of that kind of turns, kind of guidance on how I should, how I should move as a, an athlete, student athlete, and using some of my experience to help them. Hey, this is what I did. Hey, maybe, you should think about this. So it's really just doing life with students. Yeah. And they know who I am as a pastor, as a minister. And so sometimes those questions, they'll just say, yo, so you a pastor? Like, what you do? And I'll tell them that my job is to give pastoral care and support to every single student, faculty, and staff. And they'll ask me questions about God, and I'll answer, if I can. But I love it. And so, but I think when you just walk with people and they know that there's no agenda, I'm not trying to convert you, I'm not trying to transform you. I just want to make sure that you can thrive and flourish. I think when they see that, there's okay, I can let my guard down. Okay, wow, like this person's really here to help me. And so that's basically what I do. And I think it's just a privilege, because they don't have to come to me. They don't have to, it's not, no one's forcing them, but just another another way, another form of support, particularly in the pastoral counseling, area. So, but it's wonderful. I love it, man.
That's great. I mean, the fruit of this was not staged. We were out walking to grab lunch before this. There's some football players. It's near the end of the school year right now. And by the time this episode comes out, the school year will be over. But football players on campus who are taking some end of the year photos. They see you from across campus and they're like, Pastor T, come over. Like genuinely wanted you in the picture. How often does that kind of thing happen to you?
It happens a lot. It's humbling. My wife and I, we have students over our house. We just love students. I mean, honestly, Mike, also because there was people who did that to me. When I was in college. When I was in college, Troy Anderson and Yvonne and some other people, they welcomed me and they just showed me love and support. And so I feel like I'm just paying it forward. But I spend a lot of time with our students and just loving on them, just getting to know them. So it's cool. They're like, because I'm like, y'all taking a photo, like, yo, okay, cool. I mean, but yeah, it's really humbling. So just to kind of to build with them and to be part of their lives, and then to be part of our lives too, you know. So I think it's just a blessing. Word up.
I love it. I mean, that says so much about your leadership style and the intentionality you bring here. Like you were saying earlier, there's not a secret sauce here. It's just being present, doing real community together. So earlier you were mentioning your family a little bit and talking about, let's get outside.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how the leadership on campus, your identity as a pastor, how is that similar or different from the way that you parent as a dad, as a husband? When you come home, what is it like to be present with them in similar ways?
Yeah. So when I come home, I'm kind of, I'm high energy, and then I have to tail it down a little bit. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Yo, would you do something fun?
They're like, turn off pastor mode, Dad.
Yeah. They're like, yo, Dad, today was all right. I'm like, okay. So, but no, I try to, like, when I go home, just really like, hey, how was your day? What's going on? And kind of, let's get some snacks, let's eat and talk. Because I really want our kids to know that they can talk to their parents and they can just vent, whatever. That's something that I didn't have growing up, where my parents were able to, like, share with them. So when I'm home, a lot of my wife and I, we both, we try to really, we're partners. And so we try to really create an environment, a space where if you need some time alone, go ahead, chill. Like you were at school for all these hours, go, we tell our kids, go eat, chill, and, just do what you got to do, and then we'll talk. But we're real intentional about eating dinner together. We turn our phones off. Our phones are not allowed at the table. My phone is not, computers. So if there's an emergency at the school, somebody else has to handle it because I'm with the family right now at the crib. So we're really intentional about that. Really intentional about, if my kids need to do something, like, hey, I need to go to the mall. Or, come on, let's go. Let's make it happen. And so, but I think when I come home, I'm the same person, that I at work, it's just a different, I really look at, like, I'm pastoring or leading my family in the same way I would lead, here on campus, because it's love, it's sincerity, it's being intentional, spending time. And so, and my kids come here too, and they like, hey, can we come to North Park? Can we come and hang out with you? I'm like, yeah. So it's just, balancing that, but also it's just, listening to my kids, listening to them and listening to their needs. And so, but it's similar, but it's different,
Yeah. So you don't actually have a pastor mode on off. You were just you were just being and leading because it's very authentic to you, and it's just the way that you care for others, and that's so evident. How has the way that you play or bond with your family changed over the years?
My youngest loves to wrestle. Like she wants, like, Dad, let's wrestle. And so I think it's really important, especially, fathers, if you have daughters, like, you like play with your kid. Like, I think there's sometimes there's been like,
don't go easy on them when you wrestle your daughters.
Yeah, be gentle with her. Like, no, my daughter, like, wants to wrestle. Like, Dad, come on, like, wrestle, come on. Like, Dad, don't go easy on me. I'm like, all right, I'm going a little, but they want to play. They want to go outside, play catch. They want to play basketball. They want to roller skate. Dad, can we go roller skating to the park? Can you go with me and roller skate to the park? So, like, our kids love to play. And I think during COVID, we spent a lot of time outside. And we actually had a kind of like a play set built in our backyard with a tree house, with a swing, with the monkey bars. And I think we intentionally spent a lot of time outside. And I think that hasn't changed in the 5 years since COVID. Like, we're always outside. Like, it's just kind of like what we do. So, but I think they want to play more, like, my daughter played basketball this year. So she's like, Dad, guard me. Like, I want you like dribble, and I'm going to try to guard you and, like, go hard on me. So it's like, they want to play, and I'm like, all right, come on.
Yeah.
So, and then my youngest loves soccer. So we're out there, we're in the backyard playing soccer. Like, she's like, Dad, don't go easy, like, go hard. Like, try to, like, get around me real hard. So that's how we play,
That's fun.
Which is really cool, because I know my parents didn't do that. They didn't play with us. They paid for us to go to the rec center to go play.
Yeah.
And we'll pick you up at 5.
Yeah.
And I hope you had a good time.
Yeah.
But it's like, nah, let's go. We have a membership. Our family has a membership at Lifetime. We all there working out together, playing. So it's a family thing.
Oh, that's so cool. I think that's such a great theme that I heard of. The kids are like, no, I want you to engage me fully.
Yeah.
Don't go easy on me, because they can feel the difference.
Yes.
Now, of course, you're going to scale that at their age. But still, like, they're like, no, like, I want to be in it with you. Let's do this. Let's do this for real.
Yeah.
That's very cool. That speaks to me.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about your sense of play culturally specifically in the Black community, and what that looked like for you as a child and what that looks like now. What are some distinctives of play in the Black community and in your experience as a Black man in a predominantly white institution or in just the multiculturalness of Chicago? What are your favorite parts of Black play? You talk about Black Boy Joy. I'm leading you a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I love, I think one of the things since I've been in Chicago for like 22 years now is, Chicago, as many know, it's a city of neighborhoods. And I think every neighborhood has a different, just different vibe, flavor. When I grew up in New Jersey, I didn't have a lot of, it wasn't really, it was community, but it wasn't like Chicago community. And what I mean by that is when I lived on the West Side for 14 years, it was always music, it was always community. People were always playing like, cards, like it was like, or basketball. And so play was a part of, the community. If you're sitting on a stoop, we joking, we playing like, we cracking on each other, or just talking about politics, or just like laughing about like, man, ain't this crazy, man? And just joking about the current situation, really trying to flip it. And like, what, even though this stuff is happening, it's crazy, we still can laugh and have, joy. So I think that's what I really loved about, where we lived, and particularly in North Lawndale, which is at the time was about 90% African American. So it just was very communal. There was always, people were always finding ways to express joy and laugh and play, even when life was crazy. I love going to backyard barbecues, and you put on the electric slide or the cha-cha slide, everybody up dancing. Come on, y'all, come on. It's like we're like, we're dancing and we're playing, having a good time. But man, you can't even dance right, we're like, and that to me is like something that I just, I love about particularly the Black community and our Black, culture, is that we can be anywhere. And I'm not generalizing Black folks, but like, we can find joy in a lot of different spaces and play in a lot of different spaces. Whether we're at the airport and our flight's being delayed and we're like, man, can you believe it? And we're just talking about something or joking about something, or pulling out some Uno. Who want to play Uno? Let's play some Uno while we wait for this, this plane to get here or something like that. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of, and I think there's history with that too. I think, my family, on my dad's side, grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, and we can go back to history of enslavement. And my parents would talk about, particularly my dad would talk about how even on, I don't call them plantations, they're forced labor camps, how there was joy, how people got married and people still found ways to laugh. And even when life was literally like hell. I've always taken those stories and really taken them, okay, wherever I'm at, wherever I'm located, we can still play, we can still find joy, we still can laugh, and enjoy life, and enjoy, nature. And so, but that's one thing I love about, the Black community here in Chicago, is that anywhere you go, you can find some authentic laughter and joy and play happening, in some type of way. Barbershop, it's like, woo! So, which that's another place too, man.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you. I mean, and to bring that full circle, that joy piece, the resilience of an enslavement, and then there's still joy. I mean, that becomes then the roots and the early seeds of so much of the music of the 19th and 20th century. The social climate that shaped jazz and how that was, jazz was protest music almost. It was, and then the Delta blues giving way to rock and roll and all of this. Do you see that coming full circle as joy showing up and shaping music too?
Oh yeah, I think jazz is holy honesty. Jazz is like, man, it's sharing about what's happening. And you think about even like Marvin Gaye, his song in 1971, I believe came out. What's Going On? That whole album is still a beautiful album, and it's still relevant to this day. And when he was with Motown, Motown was known as like just the Hitsville, USA, right? And that was one of the first socially conscious songs that was played, and I think it was, hey, we can still laugh and we can still groove, but what's happening to our people who are coming back from the Vietnam War and are struggling mentally and socially, trying to find jobs and are not treated like they're human, right? Let's talk about those things. Let's talk about that. And so I think that has been, you see that in waves in different genres, particularly hip hop and other spaces where like, okay, we're gonna talk about how we should fight the powers. We should talk about there's broken glass everywhere, people pissing everywhere, like they just don't care. Like the message, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five back in 1982. But I think there's a lot of you see that. You see from Jay-Z to Nas, Illmatic, the album that came out in 94. That's really what's happening in our neighborhood and what's happening around us, and let's be honest about it. But we still can have joy. But let's share the truth about what's happening in our neighborhood and in our world. So I think you see that you see that in music, jazz and hip hop and other genres of like, wow, they're kind of they're talking about something that's happening, and I may not be able to relate to that. I may not experience that, but actually, wow, thank you for helping me to enter into your world and how what's happening, because I have no clue. I don't have no clue. Now, I mean, obviously social media, but I think it was so important back then and powerful to like, wow, this is what's happening. So, but yeah, I think that's I wish we had more of that in a lot of our music today.
But you can bring some of that in the mixes that you create, and
definitely,
like you said, blending preaching with music, and there's lots of ways to share a message that's going to land and be delivered in ways that other people might not have been seeking out. Like, I'm not interested in whatever, but this song is amazing, and the more time I spend with it, there's something deeper happening.
Right. And I always say, like, for me in my faith tradition, right, like if Jay-Z was a preacher, he would be a narrative preacher. He's telling a story, he's talking. If Nas too, if he was a preacher, he would be a narrative preacher, telling a story. And I think one of the things that we all have, regardless of your background, your gender, your race, your faith traditions, we all have a story. And so when I hear your story, you hear my story, we're able to enter in and say, oh, wow. Oh, I never thought about that. I didn't know you experienced that. Wow, that's deep. And so we're able to relate and to have empathy and sympathy. Or like, man, and not just like, just kind of stereotype. No, this is their personal story. So, but yeah, I love doing those things where particularly, bringing stories in where people may not realize, I never thought I would listen to this and this, and bringing these together and like, this is pretty hot. This is hot. This is dope. So, and just playing with those different styles and stuff.
Absolutely. The storytelling is such a powerful medium, because when someone shares their personal story with you, how could I look you in the face and be like, that didn't really happen to you.
Right.
No, that's not real.
Nah, that's not real. It's crazy.
So like I think of Good Kid, Mad City, Kendrick Lamar, concept album. Yeah. It tells a story in a way that simply trying to, lay it out as dry bullet points is not going to convey.
Right.
But when you are immersed in the story and you understand, like, this is personal, there are aspects of this that are really real, and in an art form you're going to maybe present it in a different way, but still so much of my journey as I have grown and expanded my faith, my political views as they have changed, has been because of storytelling. And hearing the personal stories of people who have a very different experience and culture than me, recognizing that I have just my one perspective and there's so much more I don't know. Storytelling has been I'm just kind of realizing in this moment, like, wow, that is one of the most consistent themes in my spiritual, emotional, cultural growth.
Yeah, storytelling. Yeah.
Wow.
And you got to be close to people to hear their stories. You know, so
Yeah.
like you gotta be, you know, you have to make, it has to be some intentionality to hear someone's story, or to be close to someone to hear their stories. So, but yeah, we all have one, and I think when we hear each other's stories, we're able to relate in many ways that maybe we thought we wouldn't be able to relate, but we can, you know. So.
No, and that just speaks again to like your pastoral presence. The way that you are building real relationships creates the opportunities for you to hear the stories that really reveal who someone is and what's important to them and what's happening all around us.
Yep.
So, all right, so to bring all this together now, I'm talking about play in a couple different ways.
Yeah.
In the Dr. Terence Gadsden textbook, what's the definition of play? What does play mean to you, Terence?
Man, that's such a big question. I think play is taking all the gifts and talents and the things that you desire and letting them play out. You know, kind of, you know, trying them. I think if you're a writer, play with some stories in your head, that write them out, you know, and see where it goes. You know, if you're a musician, play some music that makes you feel like, you know, like good, or, you know, so I think it's, you know, playing is being intentional. It's being creative. It's not being scripted, like having a certain script and like, it has to be this. It can be multiple different things. But I think play, you have to be intentional, and you have to use your creative, you know, you have to use your creative muscle to play. And even if you're inside, right? And I think my daughter, she loves to draw, and she loves to like create stories, and she's playing with, like, you know, these stories. So I think play is using your gifts, using your talents, in different ways, to bring happiness, to bring joy to you and maybe other people, you know, but being intentional about doing it.
That's cool. So taking, I want to make sure I heard this right. Taking what you have, and seeing what can unfold with it, letting it play out, to maybe make something beautiful and get outside. Right?
Yeah.
Is that it? Did I get that right?
Yeah, and being intentional about it, and trying it, and not being afraid to like fail, and not being afraid to like, oh, this doesn't look right, or this, no, try. You're just trying it, you know. So I think that's hip hop. Hip hop was, you know, we're gonna try these, you know, these records. We're gonna try that, you know, and it just formed, but it was authentic. Yeah. It was intentional, you know, and it created this culture. Now it's worldwide. It's multi-generational, it's multilingual, it's multicultural, like it's so, but it started off with a love and intentionality, and so.
Wow. I had not thought about the idea of intentionality coming up in playfulness, but you do, and increasingly as we get older, you have to set aside some time or have a sense of like, I'm here to play. You know, and so of course then there's improvisation and free flowing that comes out of that, but there does have to be a sense of, we're playing now. Yeah. And maybe the more you do it, the more it starts to just happen naturally. But that's really cool to think about intentionality there.
Yeah,
cool.
Got to be.
Terence, thank you so much for sharing it. I always feel like I learn so much from you every time we chat.
Man,
and,
it's a good conversation.
Grateful for you. So grateful for your leadership here as well. And to everyone who gets to be led by you and meet you, it's truly a joy and an honor.
Thank you. Shout out to you too, man. Doing some great things. I love you, man.
Love you too, buddy.
I was so struck by this concept of intentionality and playfulness. And that shows up so beautifully in the way Terence leads and carries himself in every sphere. From him being fully present with his students, bringing his full self into his work and his ministry there, to fully engaging his kids who don't want him to go easy on them. They want to meet him fully, and he does that. And his full authenticity throughout all of his life. He's not turning on and off pastor mode. He is just simply caring for people, being present, showing up, and that speaks to me quite a bit. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you can think of somebody who you think might enjoy this as well, please send it to them. And if you're not already subscribed on a podcast platform or here on YouTube, we really appreciate that, and that helps us out a lot. Be sure to check out defineplay.com to find a transcript of my conversation with Terence, as well as find his playlist of songs that make him feel playful. There's some great cuts on there. So thanks again for watching, and we will catch you next time. Bye, friends.